Good evening. Welcome to the Danvers Conservation Commission meeting for 6/27/2024. We as a commission operate under the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 26 of the Town of Danvers General Bylaws, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw. After each applicant presents his or her request and the board has had time to ask questions and discuss the project, we will accept questions from the audience. Because this is a public meeting, it is required by law that you give your name and address before you speak. Although we may disagree on the issues raised, all persons present during this meeting are expected to be civil to all other meeting attendees. This includes members of the commission, staff, abutters, concerned citizens, property owners, and project applicants. We also request that you confine your questions to the project and only as it pertains to the Wetlands Act. We cannot handle, nor do we have jurisdiction over matters such as noise or traffic. All problems not related to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Danvers Wetlands Protection Bylaw must be taken up with other appropriate boards. Our first order of business will be the roll call. Peter Wilson is present.
Mary Height is present.
Michael Splain?
Yeah.
Lorraine Drapek is away, and Jonathan Garis is away for work as well. Before we get into the agenda, just if there are people here for the airport hearing, the applicant has requested that we continue that to our meeting on July 11th. When we get to that on the agenda, we will vote to continue. But if you're here for that meeting, for that agenda item,
Well,
it won't be discussed tonight.
Mr. Chairman, can we take that now if there's people waiting and?
Well, I'm just telling them they can leave, but we're going to vote on close, not
you wanna
continuing
do it
when we
now?
get to item
All right.
4. Okay, that being said, the first order of business is a request for a certificate of compliance on 7 Chevalier Ave, DEP file number 14-1390. The applicant is Joseph Rocco, and is Mr. Rocco here? Is there anyone to represent Mr. Rocco? Yeah, please.
Sure. Good?
Okay. I'm Caitlin White from Hancock Associates. We're here in request for a certificate of compliance for the construction of a detached garage and a stormwater chamber within riverfront area to the Porter River. It was constructed as specified, the site is stable, and there were no deviations. Do you have any questions?
Just more for staff than for you. You visited the site and everything's
Yes, yep, visited the site, no concerns.
okay, good. I don't really have any further questions. Mike, do you have any?
No, just, was there an as-built on this or it was,
Yes.
yeah? And it,
Yep, everything looks great.
all right, look good? All right, I have no questions.
Mary, any questions?
Yep, no questions.
All right, someone can make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance.
I'll move
Go
that
ahead.
we issue a certificate of compliance
Thank you.
for 7 Savalia DEP file number 14-1390.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor? Aye. Just a quick question before we go. There's a second order of conditions open for this property as well. Is that right? For your peer?
Yeah, we're not here for that.
Is that in the works or is?
I'm not, we have to discuss that this evening.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Good luck with your garage. Next up is a notice of intent for 100 Independence Way, NOI for local bylaw only. The applicant is Massport and,
Oh, yeah.
right?
All right.
Hey, how are you? I'll keep it short and sweet. I know I've been in front of you, this is my third time we're in front of you for some temporary electric for the short term.
All right, and we had a site visit.
Logan Express facility, last time we were in, we've wanted a preliminary review with notice of intent. We had some technical difficulties. Since then, we've been in front of the planning board, and we received planning board approval on the site development. So hopeful tonight to walk you through the proposed notice of intent and the work involved associated with it. So I'm here tonight with our engineers and landscape architects from HNTB. So with that said, If there's any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer, otherwise I'll hand it off to them.
Okay, do I have more to add to your presentation?
Yeah, they'll walk you through the
Okay.
slide deck.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
They're fighting. We should go over.
You can go to the next slide. All right. So
You are?
I'm Will Schrafer with HNTB, the civil site designer for the project. So just to walk you through some slight background, we have been in front of you. Just want to make sure that everyone who is here, has been here, is listening, has the context. The focus is a small piece of property at 100 Independence Way, which is the Liberty Tree Mall. It's the area that's highlighted in white there, 2 existing parking lots. We're proposing to more or less expand the larger parking lot to accommodate approximately 120 more spaces than what is out there today, as well as place a building and a short-term parking lot on this smaller lot in this area. And that's just kind of introducing what we are doing. I'm going to have Stephanie Herbster from my office come up and talk through the wetland resource that we are building around on this site, which is approximately right around there.
Can we go to the next slide? Hi, I'm Stephanie Herbster with the Wetlands team at HNTB. So we went out to identify resource areas adjacent to or within the project boundaries, and we did identify one wetland area, sort of marked there in green. We, from our field investigations, did not find an inlet or an outlet, so it was classified as isolated land subject to flooding under the Wetlands Protection Act, which does not have a regulated buffer. So we're outside of that jurisdiction. However, this is classified as isolated vegetated wetland under the Danvers bylaw. So as a result, we've identified the boundaries in green. We've also identified the 35-foot no disturb zone in red, the 50-foot no build in orange, and the 100-foot buffer zone in yellow. You can go to the next slide.
And take back over to go through the proposed work that we are asking for relief here. The biggest portion is this corner of the building. This building is entirely located within an asphalt parking lot. It's roughly 11 or 12 feet off the limits of that, but it is within the no build. It's roughly 38 or 39 feet at its closest limit. So we are asking to place a building in the no build, and then disturbance. The disturbance is largely restoring existing asphalt lot back to grass and building up the buffer. Beyond the building itself, there is a small walkway associated with the building there, and this portion of the parking lot right around there is roughly built right along the 50-foot no build zone. None of it is within it, and the sidewalk itself is also without it, but it is obviously disturbance within the 100-foot buffer itself. And this is, you can see the short-term lot here. This is where the buses would be loading for the building that's there. And you can see the expanded lot in the picture there. You can go to the next slide. So I'll walk you through kind of the beginning. We're going to be aiming to, especially in this area, this is existing asphalt lot. We're going to be replanting it. And on the site walk, we identified some trees that appeared to be either close or within the limit of work. Our count, but for removal, that we did see would be approximately 7. There's 1 in the 50-foot no build and 6 others in the 50 to 100-foot, so just the 100-foot buffer. Our plantings and our overall wetland buffer improvement is proposing to replant those 7 trees, but also really improve the character of the buffer. And we have our landscape architect, Katie Thies from HNTV to talk you through kind of the other plantings that are happening there beyond just the trees. Katie, you can go ahead.
So we'll look at the next slide. Yeah, we just wanted to talk through.
We can't hear her.
Question here. Great.
Sir.
Thank you. So for that wetland buffer, the wetland planting zone,
Katie, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Katie, but we're having an audio problem. You're only coming through a laptop for the moment, so nobody can hear you except for me. Just hold on just a brief second. He's working on it. Yeah, it's just only coming out of his laptop.
Remember the mature trees we saw?
On this project?
Yeah. Yeah, they planted on saving any of those.
I think I believe those are
Okay. All right, Katie, just wait 1 minute, but you might not be able to hear me.
plantings.
Did you come out to this site? No? Did you
Wish
go
I
out on your
had.
own?
I haven't done on that one, but if they're gonna take trees, I would like if they could replant the same. Sometimes they replant like
Yeah,
in
we always
bases.
talk about what they do and give us back if they're gonna do
Is that within the buffer zone? Is it within 100 feet?
it. Should I talk now?
All right, Katie, why don't you have a go at it now?
Well, it looks like they put some stuff.
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Wonderful,
better.
thank you.
Why don't we hear you?
Please continue. Sorry about the
Perfect.
interruption.
No, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. So just wanted to walk you through, we've been coordinating with our team here of wetland specialists and just the wetland plant palette. And we've selected plants that are occurring naturally in like forested wetlands, and they are native to Massachusetts and to the region. We're utilizing the Massachusetts state guidelines for wetlands and coastal sheltered dunes list. So the plants we're providing here in general are intended to not only, be native and meet those requirements, but provide seasonal interest. So just kind of selecting here the photos that are kind of giving you that multi-seasonal value. We have the tupelo, the birch, the red maple with their stunning fall colors. We have the pepper bush, which is also known as summer sweet. It's a pollinator plant. So late spring, they have fragrant white flowers, attracting the bees and the birds. They're golden yellow in the fall, dried fruits in the winter, button bush, long-lasting flowers, and then the milkweed and the columbine also have really showy blooms in the spring. But once again, native and native to this sort of ecosystem. And then so what we're intending to do here in general with this mix is also provide the varying heights. So we're providing a visual screen from the parking lot. So all those different layers, but at the right point that we maintain, the right sight lines. And as we continue, closer to that wetland, we are still kind of screening that view of the parking lot. So it's a little bit about our approach there.
Sure, and just to expand on that, not only are we, kind of replanting a lot of that asphalt lot that is planted, the grass itself and the vegetation itself, other than the trees, it's really sparse. A lot of it's just kind of, not growing in that well. So part of what we're doing would be to really kind of expand and, just make it a much nicer buffer, expand it, and plant it with everything that we talked about.
Rob, could you go back to the diagram, the site footprint, and just show us where these plantings are planned to be?
Generally, as shown right here, so this is roughly, where I'm tracing here is roughly the limit of where we do have the 50-foot, where we are within the 50-foot buffer. You won't see any tree plantings back here. We're in discussions with the fire department. We anticipate that they would probably want access around the back of the building, so we're trying to vegetate it, but not really put any trees or other things that could block access back there. So whether it be vegetated or grass paver that will allow the same things to kind of come through. We are anticipating at least leaving this area behind the building clear. Otherwise, the plantings will all be coming in around here and along this border where we would not be.
The plantings would be just on the back edge, right? Because my understanding is you're going to be removing trees.
Yes, it would just be on the back edge of our work. Past the back edge of our work is already vegetated, so we'll be clearing up until really where the sidewalk is right there, putting our improvements in on that border between the sidewalk and the buffer that is still behind it. So enhancing it, and especially at the particular border between development and the wetland, is really going forward with that plant mix. Not only the trees, but also the undercover and everything else that goes along with it.
Okay, good.
And you can skip forward, I think, 2 slides. And just to address a question that had come up both on the site visit and at the last hearing, the source of the water for this particular wetland. So we did take a look at the topography and the Danvers GIS stormwater system that was available. Obviously, kind of as noted, our site visit didn't note an inlet or an outlet. That's backed up by the by the Danvers GIS. These lines and structures you can see there are the stormwater structures owned or maintained by Danvers that are available through the line. There's nothing that's going to there. When we did delineate the area that would be going to this wetland, it's because there's curb on Sylvan/Ash, and it's being collected by the system that you can see there. So really all that's getting there is roughly 6 or 7 residential properties draining back to there. So it kind of supports our conclusion that it is groundwater fed, and that's kind of backed up. We did some, we have example borings from the previous project within the lot there, and we did some additional borings in our lot in roughly those locations. And it shows groundwater, a couple feet below the surface. So it kind of backs up that groundwater is high there. It's almost certainly the source of the water in that particular wetland. And you can go to the next slide. And Steph will talk you through our buffer zone.
So just to speak to some of the work that will be happening within the defined boundaries that we talked about, this slide highlights the work that will be occurring in the 35-foot no disturb zone. We've highlighted that in red. And this is full impervious pavement removal, and it will be finished off with loam and seed. The waiver was submitted for this work in the original application. You can go to the next slide.
Excuse me, what's being removed there?
There's existing pavement. Oh,
All just pavement?
yes.
Thank you.
This highlights our work that will occur in the 50-foot no build. We also submitted the waiver in the original application. The area in dark orange here, that will remain impervious. It's within the footprint of the proposed building and the associated structures, I think a walkway. The area in light orange is going to be full removal, impervious removal, that will be finished with loam and seed. So this area, we do have a reduction in impervious that will be finished with the loam and seed.
The area you just pointed out is where the building's gonna sit?
Yes.
So
You
just,
see the building in the bold?
yeah, all right.
And then the next slide. And then this is a sort of summary with colors of all of the work in the 100-foot buffer zone to the isolated wetland. So the yellow shows that 50-foot to 100, and you can see the orange and the red. We've given a summary breakdown that's also in the application that talks about the permanent versus temporary and the total impacts, as well as the net change in impervious in those different zones. So you'll see on the table, it's a full reduction. There's the 2,446 square feet. And we have the majority of a reduction in the 35 to 50, which helps to offset some of the total for the project.
And the 100-foot buffer is highlighted in yellow,
The yellow.
right? So it's just
That's the 50 to 100, yep.
Right. So the impact in that, is it the northern direction, going up towards Ash Street, where you're going to be removing trees? It's just in that small section right there that's within the 100-foot?
Were you out on the site walk?
I was not, no.
No. Was someone here that was?
Rob, so I think
Yeah, Rob.
he knows what I'm
Rob,
asking.
do you remember when we were walking along where the pathway was going to be? And but beyond there were a large area of mature trees and everything. I actually commented that would be a nice walking path. What's happening there?
So there are the 2 large trees that we saw kind of in between where the building is and where this lot is. Those are roughly around there. That line of existing trees is, so the limit of the existing parking lot roughly matches this parking bank. So if you draw a straight line down there, that is roughly where the limit of the existing parking lot is. Those trees start around here and kind of go up in a line along that existing edge of the parking lot. Those are within the limits of our parking lot expansion here. Those mature trees are proposed to be removed as part of what we're doing.
And what will you do, taking those trees out, what will you give us in place of that?
So we'll be planting the same number of trees that we are removing. There's a total of 7, strictly within the buffer zone, there's a total of 7 trees that are being removed. Be planting back at least 7 trees, and then all the other undergrowth basically associated with that going in the line. Smaller trees beyond just the larger canopy trees, the underbrush, all the other plantings that we kind of went through on the palette will be going on there. And then we're not just planting within the buffer zone, we're also planting new trees throughout the site. We have a rough net of about 10 additional trees throughout the entire site that we will be planting relative to what we're pulling out.
And this whole area, it's going to require maintenance and landscaping maintenance, et cetera. Who does that? Does Simon do that, or do you guys do that going forward?
It would be, go ahead, Mike. Yeah. I'll let you speak.
The site visits.
Yeah, Massport maintains the property, so we have maintenance that we contract to come and take care of everything. So all of the, we could have our landscape architect comment on it, but everything that we ask for, particularly within the buffer areas, are hardy species. So that stuff should just maintain itself, not a big deal, but we will have people come in and mowing the grass areas, pruning trees, things of that nature.
Mulch down, whatever.
Right.
Clean up.
Litter pickup?
Right, yeah, so I think if you've been by the site already, we've already cleaned out all the trash and litter out of there. We're going to have
With people
ornament.
coming and going, there's gonna be a lot of litter, so.
Right, and we'll have, it'll be ornamental fence. We didn't want to put chain link around it, so
Right.
it's aluminum fence that replicates cast iron, wrought iron fence. It'll look nice, but it'll also help with the trash. But we'll have folks that come through regularly to maintain the lot and keep everything clean.
Okay.
I would also mention that, we've gone through the town engineering department with drainage. This lot had no stormwater treatment whatsoever. The portion put in by Danvers recently for Danvers Electric in the past few years, we were proposing the building, does have more current systems. The larger lot didn't have anything at all. We're putting in I think 4 infiltration areas, sedimentation basins, groundwater quality treatment. So there's a huge improvement in the groundwater quality that's going to be coming off this property.
Thank you.
All right, so where were we?
I think that's pretty much the end of our presentation, so I'd say I would leave it to the board if there are any questions.
Okay. Are there going to be electric vehicle charging stations there? And where will they be? And
We're going to be planning for them, so we're planning to install the infrastructure. The chargers themselves may come in and be installed in that infrastructure later, but we are currently planning for the location itself is a little bit in flux as far as where the electrical vehicles
so
are.
will you have to excavate though to get the conduits over there? Or is it going to be?
So the electrical source for the project is actually a manhole that's in Commonwealth Avenue. That's where we'll be drawing all our power from. So yes, we will be excavating as far as power goes, but nothing underground anywhere near the wetland. It'll be happening largely in already impervious areas. So that's approximately where that manhole is, and everything's going to be fed from there.
Follow up to that.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, follow up to that. So you have a given number of parking spaces now. Is there a formula that you use to determine how many electrical charge stations you need in comparison to the number of parking spaces you have?
So we were actually going by Danvers bylaw with the number that we put in. I believe we have total about 550 parking spaces. We were proposing infrastructure to accommodate 23 electrical vehicle parking spaces at this lot. The exact location and number, not quite set, but that's what we have been proposing, and that's what's in the plans that are before you.
So these cars come in and park, and then they're going to be taken to the airport. So you're anticipating out of that, how many hundreds of spaces?
550.
that only 23 vehicles would require a charge?
That's roughly in line with the demand that we've seen at other LEX sites. We haven't seen that kind of demand that would go over and above that, but that's also part of the discussions that we're having on exact location. We're not sure if people will be parking electrical vehicles long-term for going there, or if they'd prefer to charge in, say, the short-term parking lot.
Yeah,
So-
that's why I'm wondering if
Yeah.
you need to plan for the future, if we're supposedly have these deadlines where we're going over to electric, and you only have 23 spaces.
So on the Logan Express facilities, right, we have them in Framingham, Braintree. Interestingly enough, the electric charging stations haven't been heavily used at those facilities, and we have far less positions. I mentioned it, I believe, in one of the earlier meetings here, but Massport has a net zero initiative, carbon emissions by 2031.
Right.
So there's a huge push towards this. So even the bus fleet, we're looking at alternative energy sources. We've been looking at electric buses. Positively on airport, we're converting the fleet. It's a little bit different for the commuter buses with traffic and duration you're going to be on the road and the like. So we're looking at alternative energy sources for the buses. And we located the electric coming off of Commonwealth in this corner because it does have the electrical capacity to support both bus charging and the passenger car charging. So it's an initiative that we don't need to be pushed by the town. We absolutely are trying to come up with any option we can to further this. So the buses will positively be converted. It's just right now under study, but it's a relatively short-term exercise to get there.
So you're still in planning about how many charge stations to put in, or?
For the vehicles, as Will said, we have a set number that are going in initially, and that's by Danvers bylaw. But like I say, at the other Logan Express facilities, for instance, in Framingham, we have a 4-story garage. There's 2 charging stations, and they're hardly ever used. So it's kind of interesting. It's a little different than like you go to the marketplace in Linfield, and they have a bunch of charging stations. But when people shop, they all plug in. So I think when they leave them here, the nature of these lots are that people are not coming, and they're not spending 6 or 8 hours there. They're leaving their car for days or weeks. So apparently I can't afford an electric car, but apparently people that do wouldn't leave them on a charger for a week, or I don't understand why they're not getting used.
All right, thank you.
Whoever's phone's beeping, could you please silence that? Mike, any other questions?
No.
Mary, any questions?
What's the timeline from when you're gonna start the construction to when you expect to finish it? Just like a rough estimate?
Sure. So we're looking to start, operations are going to shut down in Peabody in August. We're going to be moving the temporary facility that we had that electrical connection approved for over in that August period to start operation there as Peabody begins to shut down. And then the overall timeline, including the building, still a little bit of flux. I think the target is 2 or 3 years to be done with everything. Mike?
He's going to say.
So,
you're saying
yeah,
6
it'll
months.
be faster than
That's
that. So, the site design it'll be finalized based on, the outcome of our conversations here. So they just need to get to 100% design based on, the outcome tonight. But we've actually started improvements out there outside of the buffer, maintenance type improvements. August 5th, we're looking at having this site operational under the temporary condition, which was approved by the town in May. And right now we go through a qualifications-based design for all of our design work. So the building itself, the qualifications, request for qualifications is on the street right now. We're bringing on an architect based on qualifications. Probably take a couple of months to get them on board. We'll go through a design process, but looking at having the permanent building in place sometime, I would say around 18 months, or a little more than 18 months out. But I think once we get the plans done, submitted, approved, it's probably about a year of construction. So I'd say less than 2 years, but we're going to be very anxious to get the permanent building in place and get away from the trailer concept.
All set with that, Mike?
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mary.
Thank you.
I heard mention of storage sheds somewhere on this. I don't see them on the,
Storage for stormwater. You can.
no,
see the-
storage sheds.
Storage sheds. There is one storage shed that's being proposed right around there. It's not showing up quite on the rendering, but it's one storage shed for equipment that may be needed for maintenance on site, storage. I think it's 10 feet by 10 feet, so about as small
Blowers
as it
type thing, and snow blowers and
Yeah.
whatever else.
that kind of thing.
Okay, the catch basins, who maintains those?
Catch basins would be maintained by Massport, similar to the landscaping, cleaning up garbage around the fence.
Okay, and while we're on top of that, all of the water from this project flows away from the wetlands.
Yes,
Correct.
so pretty much nothing in the existing or the proposed condition feeds to this wetland. So you can kind of see the contours that are on here. This is the high side, goes down to the low. That's true in both the existing and the proposed. So that's where a lot of our, stormwater management is concentrated. But really, the only thing draining into this wetland, nothing from the site, proposed or existing impervious that's on that site. It's really just this area down here by the contours that is draining down to that. No existing connections, no proposed connections. We're not sending any runoff there.
Okay, good. And I guess finally, when we get back to the trees that you're removing, is there any way we can work around saving at least some of those trees?
With the
How
work-
many parking spaces are we gaining over there?
In this area, which is for the removal of most of those trees, it's about 40 additional parking spaces. And given the grade change and the work that's going to be going on around them and the size and extent of the root system, I would not be confident that we'd be able to maintain any of them.
So the trees that are coming up, there's impervious going where those trees are, right?
Yes. So more or less, this portion of the parking lot will be going where a lot of those trees are.
And where are the trees going to, to compensate, to compensate?
On the property line?
Largely in here, strictly in the buffer, but we are doing additional plantings, as you can see, kind of ringing the entire thing. But the compensatory to match there would be concentrated within the 50-foot buffer in that particular area. No utilities in there, we're not doing any stormwater management, and it is the most relevant and beneficial to the wetland resource back there.
Just give me a quick ratio. For every tree you're removing, how many are you planting?
We're calling out on the site demo plans 20 individual trees being removed. We're proposing roughly 30 trees. This is an ongoing discussion for the number and the placement, just to make sure that Massport has their sight lines for security cameras and everything else, but along the perimeter and within the buffer total, planting about, and that's just the canopy trees, roughly 10 additional ones.
And those are where on that drawing?
You can see the areas that we're targeting around here, along the buffer, there's a stormwater management system there, in the stormwater management system and between our lot and the police station. And then these are all residential properties back there, so we wanted to maintain and improve that buffer for screening for the parking lot and for the residents that live there. And then again, trying to concentrate, especially for the ones we're removing, within the buffer zone right along there.
Okay, these plantings, how do we make sure those are in the plan? Is that a condition that we have to attach?
They're in the plan, meaning that it was
So to
part
get
of
a
their.
certificate of compliance down the road, those trees have to be planted?
Exactly. It's what they put in the plans.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Are those trees going to be from that list that you gave us at the beginning?
Along the wetland buffer, yes.
But not the others?
Not all of the others.
Not
So
the
we have additional plantings that are appropriate for those particular conditions. The ones that we selected and presented tonight are specifically, as our landscape architect discussed, very appropriate for wetter environments and for providing screening around that wetland resource area. So those will also be sprinkled throughout the site. That's not the only place that they're going, but we are looking at other species in different areas, but definitely focusing on those for the wetland buffer.
And would they be native, or it probably doesn't matter, but I was just curious.
Yes, the target would be they're all native, hardy, appropriate for season, for
Yep.
not requiring too much maintenance.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions, comments, before I open up to the public discussion? Does anyone from the public have anything to add, questions to ask?
There are people online as well.
Okay. I
Just
just
so
saw
you know.
Mr. Bradstreet.
Let them go first.
Sally Kearns, why don't you go right ahead with your question?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good evening, folks. Appreciate the chance to comment and ask a question or two. Want to thank the Conservation Commission for your very fine questioning. I, too, have many questions, having listened to a couple of presentations by my colleagues over there at Massport. My concerns are that we're adding a tremendous amount of concrete asphalt to an area that will also generate car trips 22 hours a day, and there'll be also a tremendous amount of lighting. So I'm listening to the conversation about the removal of the trees, and I truly want to thank Mike Splain and the rest of you for asking very specific questions. I think it's important. Am I correct in understanding that you will be removing 7 very mature trees? How tall are the trees that are coming down?
I'm not sure we have a height measurement. We do have calipers of the trees, so we know the diameter at chest height, which is kind of the typical way that it is measured. I would say at least 30 or 40 feet, but that's mostly a guess. We don't have exact numbers on that.
Well, roughly.
Yeah, roughly 30 or 40 feet.
They're big, tall trees. Okay. What you put back, will that also, I mean, are you putting in 20-foot? What are you doing height-wise to replace those?
I'll let our landscape architect take that question.
Yeah, we're, for establishment, right, we're usually doing, 3-inch caliper trees to go into the site. So it's intended to, over time, grow into its space and adapt to the space, but it's certainly not going to go in at, 20 feet, from the get-go. So
why not?
It's just to put in a 20-foot tree. It's usually, that's just not what you're going to get from a nursery. Is a 20-foot tree. You're going to get a 2 or 3-inch caliper tree. So we're putting in more trees than exist today. Right now, I think the number showed 20 trees removed from the site, 30 trees being added back into the site. So over time, that will grow into it.
So this brings me, thank you for that. It brings me to my next question, if I could, Mr. Chair. I'm listening to this discussion about the tree removal, and wanted to ask, how much total grass and green area for the whole project will be removed and replaced with concrete? How many yards?
So the number there, and it's all detailed in stormwater report and other things that we did submit, is around 31,000 square feet, which would be roughly 2/3 of an acre or so. And that's largely concentrated at our additions. So this portion,
Oh, sorry.
hey, you can leave it on that. Around here, this bump out here, and then this parking lot, the edge of the existing parking lot around here is roughly
Yeah, I'm not
being extended
able
by...
to see, but,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, I can't see what you're pointing at. So, but it sounds like you're saying about 2/3 of an acre in various chunks, if you will, different.
Yeah, about a 2/3 of an acre increase across the entire site, and because we are increasing, and because it's a parking lot that we're expecting a lot of vehicles to remain parked at, we did design to the highest stormwater standards required under the Mass DEP wetland bylaw, a full inch for water quality treatment, and mitigating any increase in the 2, 10, and 100-year storm as required by that, because we are adding that impervious. As Mike had mentioned a little bit earlier, the existing stormwater management out there, it's 3 catch basins that are collecting really right before it gets to Commonwealth Ave. There is no stormwater quality treatment out there other than maybe the sumps in those catch basins. We are proposing 5 infiltration basins underground, 2 above ground, and some other detention basins in areas where the soil is not as great and we can't expect it to infiltrate. We're remaining conservative there.
Yeah, so that is incredibly helpful detail about the stormwater filtration system that you're going to put in. I guess I'm more interested in knowing, well, first of all, if we can clarify, your application is, you're asking for a waiver because your project will be inside the buffer zone, am I right?
Yes.
Inside areas of the no disturb and the no build, which are 35 and 50 feet respectively.
Right, so we have the 35 and 50-foot buffer zones are to protect wetlands. So, and this is where I'm headed with this. I think we need to be requesting that Massport provide us with mitigation, specifically around the issues that we're discussing. I know, for example, that the town of Winthrop has a mitigation agreement with Massport. I'm not suggesting that Danvers is burdened in exactly the same way or to the same extent that Winthrop is by Logan Airport, but between this project and the application for, well, leave that aside, what's happening at Beverly Airport, that's neither here nor there. Given all the changes that are going to occur and the ongoing need for, maybe the plantings will need to be buttressed, maybe the runoff will not work as you had anticipated, I would like Massport to work with the town on a mitigation fund to address, we don't know exactly what the sound will be like, we don't know what the lighting will look like, we don't know how this whole thing is going to look.
Aren't we talking, excuse me, Sally, aren't we talking about a bond here?
Well, as a follow-up question to that, what level of mitigation are we asking for? I mean, their requests for waivers are within the limits set in the bylaw for the percentage of square footage that can be disturbed.
Well, the fact remains, they are asking to build where, you know, we've said you shouldn't be building.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, they're not the first people that have asked for these waivers. I mean, we consider them all, you know, individually and weigh the risk, you know,
and
the
this one
benefits and the
comes
costs.
from Massport, which is a public entity, quasi-public entity. And I'm sorry, I don't know who's speaking right now.
It's me, Peter Wilson.
Chairman Wilson.
With, Peter, you're the chair of the Conservation Commission, yes?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. So my interest here is in assuring that the town has resources going forward to deal with, this is very disruptive. I don't think anyone can suggest that it's not going to be. We still don't know what the building might look like. I really think it's quite reasonable for us to respectfully ask Massport, will you work with us? Will you work with us in a mitigation fund, given the disruption, the added concrete? There's going to be a cost to that. It's going to heat up even more. You're doubling the number of parking spaces that you would have had, or that you do have now at the Peabody site. I think our town...
Excuse me, we're not, I mean, 3/4 of them are already here. I mean, we're talking about adding, what, 40 or 50 parking spaces in our buffer zone. I know there's some others up in the left-hand corner.
Overall, if you could go back to the existing conditions slide.
It's more than that, I think.
The current count that has been parceled out, and these are parking lots obviously associated with the mall. The larger lot is roughly 430 spaces striped right now. Smaller lot's 96. So we're proposing an overall increase, if I can do the math there real quick, of about 25 total. They're just being concentrated largely in the big lot rather than because the building is taking over a large portion of that other smaller existing newer lot. So we're talking about an overall increase of about 25 parking spaces within this area, but also accommodating the building and other things associated with it.
Well, I'm sorry, the application, the discussion at the planning board was for a doubling of the parking spaces. Or an addition of 250.
The conversation at the planning board was relative to the Peabody lot, not this lot. The Peabody lot, I believe it's about 240 spaces, somewhere thereabouts. However, we also have overflow over there. So we've been north of 400 cars, but that only occurs at February vacation week, Thanksgiving week. It's peak periods. So that's why we need the space, and we're anticipating, growth through the years. We have a 40-year lease on this property. So the increase here, particularly within the wetland buffers, are minor. I would also mention the Danvers Electric lot, which was built, I think, 3 or 4 years ago by the town. We're actually removing a lot of pavement and impervious area within that lot. So that's where we're looking to, the building would encroach about 11 feet, but it's an arc, 11 feet at the worst case. But we're removing a lot of impervious pavement from behind the building. So, we're hopeful that that'd be something to be looked at favorably by the town. We're reducing impervious and the area closer to the wetland area.
Yeah, the number of spaces in the original lot that was on Route 1 on the southbound, how many was that? That was a...
I honestly don't know that number. I do know that Logan Express facility was closed. The reason it was closed was because it was extremely difficult to get to.
Yeah, access.
So they never had good ridership from there. And most of these lots, Massport loses money on these, on most of these Logan Express properties. The intent of them is not a for-profit operation. It's to lower emissions with people in particular demographics parking their car in just one vehicle driving into the airport.
So, sorry, can we clarify the total number of new parking spaces that your project at Liberty Tree Mall is seeking to create is how many?
555 parking spaces in the current plans.
How many of those are new?
About 25. The existing lots that are out there are 430 and 96 for a total of 526. So 555, 526, 29 new parking spaces relative to what's out there right now.
And to do that, you're going to have to remove 2/3 of an acre of vegetation and trees. Just seems like a lot for 25 spaces,
Well, where
29.
the building is going is taking up parking spaces.
Yeah.
So there's a little math in there to consider that you remove it, you're taking how many spaces up to put that building in?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but for people that can see me on the pointer, it's roughly located around here. So this portion, that parking lot, which we'll call it half, if there are 96 spaces there, around 45 to 50, that the building would directly impact with its placement on that existing lot. And a lot of the spaces are just being moved over, that, 555 total, to the larger lot, and you can go to the next.
Let's maybe get to a compromise here. How important are these, the lot on the, is this north-south orientation on this map?
Yes.
So in the north part where you want to take out the old growth trees, you're gaining 25 parking spaces in there, is that?
About 40 parking spaces by
About
doing
40.
that.
Well, when you say
that's
about
40,
40,
but it's less than 10%, right?
Are
Are those that important to this project? Can we
yeah,
not do
get rid
those?
of that.
And if you want to study it and come back to us, that's fine. I mean, if you can't answer that now, but I think that's what we're all kind of driving at. We don't want to lose those trees for the sake of such a small gain in parking spaces.
And you know what, to add to that is who's to say that you don't, if you come in later and say, gee, we have a bigger demand than we ever expected, they could come in and ask for, to build additional spaces, am I right?
Or there could be overflow on the other side of, what's the name of the street, Constitution or Independence? Can you guys consider that and come back to us?
Well, I know that the PB lot right now, we're already exceeding at peak periods upwards of 450 cars. We're coming out of the pandemic, and during that period of time, so Logan Airport, during the pandemic, we went from 42 million passengers a year down to 12 million passengers a year. This past year, we've had a big spike, which got us up somewhere around 39 million passengers. The anticipated growth is about 3% per year. So even in the past 2 years, with the ridership between 30 and 39 million passengers, we've had 450 cars roughly at peak times, and we expect, somewhere in there in the range of about maybe 2 or 3% growth a year. It has been increasing quickly post-pandemic, but then it'll level off somewhat.
Okay,
So
but
the
you're not answering
development
my
plan,
question, Mike.
the investment for the lot, the development plan for the lot was based on the space counts that you see now.
I'd be more inclined to vote if they were saving the trees.
I mean, we'd be amenable to adding trees.
Yeah, but
Adding trees where and how many more?
Well, right
I
now,
mean, you don't have to answer me right now. If you want to come back to us, that's fine. I get the feeling through the board members that are here that this tree issue is a hang-up. And, I mean, overall, over in Peabody, say you have the peak areas, but you have overflow parking. I see, hundreds, if not thousands, of overflow parking spaces in the mall. That I think it's worthwhile to consider that trade-off versus cutting down this old growth trees.
the,
I don't know if they're old growth, but you know what I'm saying? They're just mature trees. I don't think,
the reason we have the opportunity for overflow parking in Peabody is because that facility was built as a temporary facility. That's why there's trailers out there.
Yep.
And it was supposed to be, if it was successful there, which the Peabody lot on Route 1 was not, we're hopeful that the location of that one would be more successful. That lot was built due to political pressure by many state reps and senators that felt that this area was underserved. We put it out there. We had that small lot on Prospect Street, and there was supposed to be a deal with Simon in which if that lot was successful, they were going to give us more area at the North Shore Mall to build out a permanent facility. That deal didn't happen. They were unable to do that for us based on their
Told us that
development plans.
previously, I think.
Made us look for other options. So there were early conversations with the town of Danvers. So that's why we ended up over here looking at property. But at this point with Simon, the reason we were getting overflow from them over there was because we had, let's say, a handshake deal.
Right.
That if it was successful, they wanted to see what we'd max out so we know what to develop over there on their lot. But they didn't allow us to do the build-out plan we hoped for over there. Over here, we're not going to have that same luxury of an overflow lot or a guarantee of an overflow lot. So this lot was sized to accommodate not only the current capacity, but the anticipated capacity going forward. I think we'd be amenable to talking about how we could get more trees or where we could get more trees in there. I'm definitely amenable to doing something with the trees, but we'd be hopeful that we could build out the lot to achieve the number of spaces that we're showing there.
But we're only talking about taking mature growth trees down to put some more asphalt for a parking space, to line out a little space. And it doesn't seem like a great trade-off for a Conservation Commission to say, yeah, let's take these great trees down. And I remember commenting, gee, what a nice walking path that would be right through that area. And now I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be asphalt, and it doesn't need to be. I mean, and what
They're
if,
saying
you
it
know,
does.
maybe your numbers aren't that correct. You said the facility on Route 1 was underused.
Right, which is why it closed.
Why should this be any different? This isn't that great an access area.
The problem on Route 1 is the only way you could get there was
Well, I
coming
know,
up
but this
Route
isn't a
1
real
South.
accessible area
That's not
either.
our
No, I know, but I
not our
mean,
jurisdiction.
counter to his argument that.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing, I'm trying to explain, the reason why we're building out with that number of spaces. We don't want to come in and try to steamroll something through this commission. That's not our goal. I'd like to do something, the Massport would like to do something, coming in as a good neighbor. I hear your concerns.
Yeah, and you know what, when you bring conservation experts in to convince us it's a good idea to take down these trees, it just doesn't ring right with me, ring true.
Right, well, the idea wasn't to bring someone in to try to convince you it's a good idea to take down trees. It's clear to me that you have concerns here. It sounds like you'd like us to come back. If, we can take a look at things, see what we can do. I'm not sure what we can do. I'm not at liberty, I'm not the person making decisions on what next steps would be on this, but I'd certainly be
Okay,
able to
so-
take it back and talk to the folks that are.
You should. Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, there's only 3 members of the board here tonight. You also have the right to say you want to wait till the full board is here.
Right.
But, we'd appreciate if you did rethink it and try to do whatever you can to save those trees. Or
You
at
need
worst,
2 out of 3 votes here.
get.
Yeah, it's
a
not
net
looking
where
good, is
we've
it?
got more leaves.
So,
It's not, there also are waivers to consider too. So, when we grant waivers, we're looking for something to trade off
Return.
against. So.
okay, understood.
That kind of addresses what Sally Kearns pointed out about, in a sense, it's mitigation. You want a waiver, you want us to waive and allow you to do something in a no disturb or no build, and then we want something in return,
I
generally.
understand.
Yeah.
So before we adjourn, would it be worthwhile to hear if there are any other comments?
Well, I was going to ask if people have been waiting to speak. I'm going to
Right,
give them a chance.
okay.
Ms. Kern, are you all set?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I am. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Is there someone
Appreciate
else,
it.
Brian? Okay, and there was just one other, we received a letter today from a Ms. Linda Wigglesworth, and her concerns were around traffic, which is, as we said in our opening statement, we do not have jurisdiction over that, so, and I believe that was discussed at the planning board. traffic, there's concerns about the conservation area, and we've addressed that by the fact that no water from this project is heading towards the wetlands. It's going away from the wetlands. What else did she, then she just talks about lighting, paying for parking, and she says these are all big concerns that have not been addressed, but I think that most of these concerns have been addressed at the planning board level. Is that a fair thing to say?
That is correct.
Mr. Betancourt.
I would like to thank our State Representative Sally Kearns for her comments, they were helpful. I don't know if she heard me, but...
What are you running for office?
No. No, I'm not.
I did, thank you, and you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Bill, what do you have to say for us?
Bill Bradstreet, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 1. Forgive me for being late, I was at a different meeting. I had made a suggestion, and I have a question for you folks, that this location, or what have you, wouldn't it serve well if it was on the front corner, right on Endicott Street, adjacent to 128, if it were built there, plenty of parking around?
Excuse me, Bill, what does that have to do with the wetlands?
Whether you folks should have to deal with conservation in that area as opposed to dealing with it now and cutting down
I think you asked this question the
trees.
last time we had this discussion, and the answer was provided, that there was some arrangement between Simon and Massport.
I'm still as concerned as you are about the loss of the vegetation and the older trees. I'm getting older. I don't want my legs cut off either.
Well, hopefully we're making progress on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sir? Let's see what he has to say.
Oh, he's got paperwork. Let's see.
Mark Zubrick, 9 Glendale Drive, Danvers, Mass. I put down 3 questions for myself to discuss, and primarily Sally Kearns picked up on most of the same ones that I have, but I would like to just ask these more relevant. How much of the acreage that is in question, both lots, is devoted to the no-build, to the buffer zones, to the spoils areas? What's the percentage of the property that's being conserved, basically? Because that's what you're directed to do. So that's a question open. I don't know if anybody can answer it.
They have that number somewhere, don't they?
So it's a net increase of 5,000 square feet of impervious surface. You can see the bottom just behind you. So most of this is paved already. It's a net increase of 5,000 square feet of imperviousness. But, and you can see that it's, let me put this over, between the 0 and the 50, which is the most sensitive area, it's a decrease of about 4,000 square feet of impervious. So the most critical area is becoming more green.
So if anybody can explain, we're talking about half a dozen trees, mature trees, that are being cut back. Are those trees located in those particular areas?
Not in the no-build and not in the no-disturb, no.
I was going to say, there's one in the, within 50 feet, and the other 6 are in the 50 to 100.
So it's outside of it.
They're
Well-
in the buffer, though, aren't they?
They're in,
The 50 to 100.
jurisdictional buffer.
Yeah.
Those 6 noted are in the, between 50 and 100.
so they're already protected because of the
Well,
buffer.
that makes it our jurisdiction.
I know. That's why I'm saying this is something that Conservation Commission has that right or authority to investigate.
That's what we're doing.
Absolutely, and I love it. Now, not being a tree hugger or anything like that, I've gone through different designs, but one of the things that I noticed, my second question here is, you're making provisions for charging stations. And what I heard, 23 are anticipated to be planned at least, not necessarily built at this time, but planned. Why aren't we making those provisions underground? Because that's how most of the charging stations that I've seen are located, the cables are underground and everything else is, supporting structures. So
what's your question there?
The question is, why are we only anticipating 23 if the intent of the federal and state legislatures is anticipating a heck of a lot more by 2031? That's a question.
But you also heard them say that there are other lots, there's very little demand for these. And I think they are planning to put their wiring underground.
That's the unintended consequences.
What's the unintended consequence?
That they're being underused because the vehicles are not on the road yet. So we're anticipating that. The last question I have is, is directly related to the landscaping. I heard the option is we'll put more trees. The thing is, when we put in new trees, it takes 10, 15 years for that tree to come up to a level where it's presentable. Usually our street trees fall apart within a couple of years due to drought and other diseases. So preserving these particular trees may be a green island for the Massport parking lot where people can enjoy that, the grassy area. So I would recommend, or I would ask that we do not cut those trees. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Okay.
Okay, so I guess our next question is we are agreeing we're going to move to July 11th or July 25th?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
July 11th will work for you?
Is that the next?
That's our next meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that agenda looking?
Correct.
That's,
July 11th, that's our next meeting here, 7 o'clock.
okay, so we want to continue to that. So if someone can make a motion, we will do that?
I'll move that we continue 100 Independence Way to our next scheduled, and there's no DEP number because it's local
They don't need one,
jurisdiction,
right.
to our next scheduled meeting, which is July 11th.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll see you
Thank you
then.
for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
Okay, next up is an abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for 348 Andover Street, 3 Cemetery Road, 5 Cemetery Road, DEP file number 14-1417. The applicant is Roland Lemieux. Is someone here representing Mr. Lemieux?
Online.
Good evening. Craig Marchanda with Marchanda and Associates. We're the civil engineers representing the applicant. We also have Maureen Harold from Norris Environmental, who delineated the wetlands on remotely as well. As you folks probably remember, we were in front of you early May, the 9th, I believe, and our meeting was continued pending a site walk to confirm the delineation in the field. You folks are nice enough to meet with us. We performed the site walk. There are a few questions raised by some commission members about some running water they saw. So I passed that information along to Maureen, who responded, and I sent an email to the commission back on June 12th, kind of clarifying there's an intermittent stream within the flagged PPW. And certainly Maureen is here as well if there's further questions regarding that, but I hope that clarified the concerns raised in the field, and we were simply seeking to confirm the delineation for the ZANRAD filing at 3 and 5 Cemetery Road and 348 Andover Street.
Okay, you're all set then? I think I mentioned this, at least to Brian and to Emily, that these other ANRAD cases, we have asked for a peer review, and I think it's appropriate in this particular situation. Because when we were walking through those woods, and we did see the running water, so that just raised a red flag in my mind that there's probably more there than my inexperienced eyes could see, so.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Maureen Harold, Norse Environmental Services. So, of course, it's up to the discretion of the commission to send it out to peer review. Just to let the commission know, the intermittent stream is not shown on the USGS topographic map, so therefore it's presumed to be intermittent. In fact, there are no streams shown on the USGS topo map. Or no rivers in that area.
Would you think that the water that's feeding this intermittent stream is probably runoff from the condo project right next door?
I think it's a combination. I think it's runoff, but I also think it's groundwater as well.
So either case, I mean, there's some wetlands there that I would like to see a peer review done on this.
Absolutely. That's up to the discretion of the commission. That's not a problem.
Mike, do you have any questions?
Only that, just to understand your comment, are you saying that it's intermittent because it's not listed on any map, or so that hypothetically, if it was continuously running but not listed, it would still be determined to be intermittent?
Right, so the first step is with the Wetland Protection Act and the Riverfront Regulation. If a stream is shown as a thick blue line, it's presumed to be a perennial stream or a river. Right. If a stream is shown as a thin blue line, it's presumed to be intermittent. On the USGS topographic map, there's actually no stream shown. There's certainly a stream there. And it's an intermittent stream.
And it's intermittent, you believe it's intermittent because you went out and looked at it to determine that, or are you relying on because of the map?
No, sir. I went out to the property and I flagged it and I saw it.
Yeah.
So I know that it's there, map or no map.
But how do we know whether it's intermittent or not, other than, okay, I know on the map, but I mean, there's like a determination that it has to dry up, for example, to be determined to be intermittent?
So one way we can do is we can possibly run stream stats on the stream and get a watershed size, calculate the watershed size. If it's less than 1 square mile, it's considered intermittent. It probably has a relatively small watershed because it's not shown on the USGS topo map. Typically, if it has some sort of watershed, the USGS topo map reflects that and shows a stream.
Yeah. How
But
old is
we
that
can
map?
certainly provide that additional information. That's not a problem.
But how old is that map information?
The USGS topo map?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, they've had USGS topo maps back to the 20s and 30s, and they update them continuously.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
we use the most current USGS topographic map.
All right, well.
Okay. Any other questions, Mike?
No, just that if our chair's concerned about a peer review, then so am I at this point. Yeah.
Okay, Mary, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, so is there any questions from the public? Seeing none. Okay, if someone can make a motion for me that we'd like to send this out and get a peer review done on this particular INRAD, just to see if there's any discrepancies. We'll see where the wetlands are after that, and then we'll go
Mary
forward.
do that.
How do I do it?
Make a motion.
Just make a motion. We'd like to have a peer review done for this project.
I'd like to make a motion that we would like to have a peer review done for the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation at 384 Andover Street, 3 Cemetery Road, 5 Cemetery Road, DEP file number 14-1417, applicant Roland Lemieux.
I second the motion.
Okay, before we go to a vote, staff, we can get a bid for peer review and get that done, and
Yeah, we can
what kind of
set, yeah,
timing?
we'll set that up just the way we've done in the past.
Okay, so we
Just-
continue indefinitely, or do we continue to a certain date, or?
I mean, realistically, this is not going to be ready in 2 weeks under all circumstances.
So
So
go
we
out to the
could,
next date.
we could continue to a month, the one that's 2 meetings from now.
7/25?
July 25th.
Are they agreeable to the 25th? Yeah?
Sure.
Yeah. And then one other thing, just to point out, that'll be at the cost of the applicant, correct?
It has to be, yes.
Yes. Okay, so right now, we are voting on requesting a peer review, and I think we have a motion and a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now the next thing is we want to continue this public hearing until our 7:25 meeting, so if someone can make a motion to that effect.
So I move to continue the public hearing for the ANAR for 348 Andover Street, 3 Cemetery Road, 5 Cemetery Road, DEP file number 14-1417, to a meeting on July 25th.
Oh, I second the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll see you in a month's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is notice of intent for 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file number 14-1418. The applicant, Flight Level Aviation, has requested to continue to our next meeting for July 11th, so due to the small board size here. So if someone can make a motion to that effect, we'll do that.
I'll move that we continue the meeting for 191 Old Burley Street, DEP file number 14-1418, applicant Flight Level Aviation, to our next scheduled meeting of July 11th, 2024.
Is there a second?
I second the motion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and next up is a notice of intent for Summer Street, DEP file number 14-1419. The applicant is the Town of Danvers Engineering.
Hi, good evening. Bill Casey from Arcadis, representing the town. Steve King, coming from the web. Steve, did you want to lead? Where do you want me to go?
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, good evening, members of the Conservation Commission. Sorry, remote today, but yes, we're before you today for a notice of intent to replace an existing drain pipe across Summer Street at the intersection of Strawberry Hill and Lee Road. Back in March of 2024, we were called out for a large significant sinkhole that opened up, much like what we had at Beaver Brook last summer. So I guess due to the intense storms we're having, some of our infrastructure is starting to deteriorate rapidly. So we were called out, engineering and the street and highway were called out. We made some temporary repairs, but we're doing an inspection of the culvert. We've learned that it's basically completely corroded. So it's an existing arched corrugated metal pipe, which is deteriorated and it's failed at this point. So the purpose of the work that we need to complete is to replace the existing drain pipe across Summer Street, improve the existing head wall at the discharge side or the outlet side of the culvert pipe, and also replace the manhole at the inlet side, along with doing some roadway and curb work and sidewalk work. Since this is an active stream, We do know that all this work is within the buffer zone, so we're actually going to need some requests or waivers as far as working within the 25 and 35-foot buffer zones, along within the entire project is within the 100-foot buffer zone. And then our consultant, Arcadis, is also there tonight, Mr. Bill Casey, who also has a presentation related to the project as well.
Thanks, Steve.
So I'll let you take it from there.
No, we could probably just click through the slides. That's just very simple presentation of located in the site along Summer Street at the intersection of Lehman and Strawberry Hill Lane. I'll probably go through. Just a couple of photographs of the washout from the sidewalk on the left and just the temporary repair of the sidewalk on the right. Again, this has kind of been an ongoing problem with the deterioration of that culvert. Just another view looking south, identification of the location of the culvert repair. And this is the outlet side at the property, I believe it's 1 Lima Street, right along looking north there. So just real quick touch on some of the provisions that we're planning for environmental protection. This will be a relatively quick project, replacing about 60 linear feet of pipe, proposing to have inlet filters on catch basins around the area, lining the resource with silt fence, and we are going to have the need to bypass pump if we have rainstorm. This is it has a fairly good drainage area, probably about 26, 27 acres, come down from Strawberry Hill Lane neighborhood. We will need to bypass, so we're going to propose to kind of dam up the outlet end so water doesn't back up upon us, and any water that comes down the pipe will need to be transferred to the stream on the other side.
But you'll have a pump that does that?
Yes. Yep. This is just an overall drainage system off the town's GIS, just giving a general location, a little bit of the storm drain network. I think the next slide might be the watershed. This is kind of giving a feel for the 26, 27 acres of a watershed that's draining down on this culvert. For the next slide. Just simple replacement here, as Steve indicated. We're replacing a manhole from the sidewalk area. It's about 60 linear feet of pipe, and stabilizing the bank on the other side with concrete head wall, repairing the sidewalk, and should be in and out of the area in, I don't know, hopefully short order, couple of months.
Basically, it's necessary work.
It is, it's maintenance work.
Yeah.
Yep, I mean, time gets everybody, right? And this is a metal pipe that sees water all the time.
If there was a big rainstorm tomorrow, what would be, with this culvert having failed, would the flooding repeat itself? Or?
So the culvert hasn't failed at this point. It is deteriorating. I believe the bottom of the culvert is, where the deterioration is occurring. It's got a pretty good capacity, if you will. It's oversized over the 10-year storm. So it would have to be a real healthy rain event, and we are getting more of those these days. But we're proposing to maintain the capacity, equal capacity, just replacing it with a 30-inch HDPE pipe, so something that'll last.
Okay. A question more for staff. This is a limited project, is that what we're calling it? So my understanding is they're exempt from waiver requirements?
Well, they still have to say.
We have to give the.
But they still have to say that where the work is occurring, but the waivers, I believe, they don't have to actually.
They just have to say where they're working.
Exactly.
We don't have to grant them a waiver.
I have a follow-up question with staff. Do we have to make a motion to vote that this is in fact a limited project? I mean, don't we have to determine that?
Yeah, that's that's part of the finding.
Yeah, so, yeah, because I'd be inclined to make that motion.
Because it's not on the memo then.
It
So-
did not, oh, that didn't make it,
So
okay,
we'd have to,
that is our
we'd have to
fault.
declare this as a limited
Yeah.
project first.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Mary, do you have any questions?
Nope, I'm good.
Is there any public comment or questions? None?
So the scope of that road is going to be basically across the street, across Summer Street.
That's correct.
Sir, could you tell us who you are,
Did
please?
you want to say something, or you approve it, or you're in favor?
I was asking the question. I got to let know.
Sir,
You have to
you just
go
have
to
to
the
let us
mic
know.
and say who you are and where you're from.
Kevin McGinnis.
Sir, you need to go up to the mic so we can hear you.
That's why nobody asked their questions, huh? I'm Kevin McGinnis. I'm at 7 Mohawk Street. So my only question is the scope of the work, the crossing of the street there and the sidewalks. Okay.
And is there something in addition to what you saw in the presentation that you need to have answered?
No, I just wanted to confirm that, because I got a notice saying that I abutted it, but I don't really. So maybe I don't understand the definition of abutting.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
That's within a certain amount of feet.
That's a radius area that...
Right, so I don't understand the definition of abutting, so I just wanted to know if it was limited to that, crossing the street and the sidewalks. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
You're welcome, sir.
Right.
Okay,
thank you.
Okay, so then we have two issues to vote on.
Yeah.
We have to declare this a limited project, and then we have to vote on an order of conditions.
I'm going to make a motion that we make a finding that this is a limited project for maintenance and improvement of existing public roadway for the Summer Street project, DEP file number 14-1419, the applicant being the Town of Danvers Engineering Department.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
And now we have one more item.
I'm going to make a motion that we grant waivers for the 35 and 50-foot no disturb, no build areas to allow this work to proceed.
But actually, by declaring a limited project, we've already done that. But now
Yeah.
we have to vote on the order of conditions.
Do we need to vote on the 3550, or just...
No, so this is what I was saying. I don't think you need to vote for the waivers because they technically don't have to apply for them.
All right.
So I don't believe you need the 35 and the 50.
Right, so by declaring it a limited project, we already said they don't need the waivers.
Since we don't have to vote on the waiver, then I'll make a motion for Summer Street Project, DEP file number 13-1419, applicant Town of Danvers Engineering Department, that we issue an order of conditions for that DEP file number 14-1419.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Good luck. Next up is...
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome,
Okay,
Steve.
bye, Steve.
Next up is 30 Water Street, a notice of intent, DEP file number 14-1420. The applicant is Anthony Cerullo. He must be the trustee. Anthony,
Who's here for the applicant?
Hi, this is Bill Manuel, speaking
Oh,
from Hybrid Land.
Bill, I thought I saw you in the parking lot, didn't I?
Nope. Could be my twin brother, though.
Someone looks a lot like you.
Doppelganger.
Get this up. Hold on. Let me just. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Bill, I'm sorry.
So this is Bill Manuel, Wetlands and Land Management. I've decided that normally I would come in person. My daughter is home visiting from out of state this week, and she's here, and I'm going to do the meeting hybrid to spend a little bit more time with her. So this is a fairly simple project. At least two of you on the commission will remember this, when we did the deck and the overhead pergola. That was 5 years ago already. This is the Salmon Joe's restaurant. You can see from the plan that the entire lot is either paved parking lot or building. That deck and overhead pergola went very well, and the commission issued an order or a certificate of compliance. That's already closed out. Now what we're doing in 2024 is to create a small bump out addition right in the little in the L of the building. And that's going to facilitate, it's going to be like a new takeout alcove, steps in and then a little waiting area. There'll be some interior renovation to, sort of pass the takeout almost directly from the kitchen prep area to the takeout window inside. So nice little, it's a 16 by 20 plus or minus a few inches addition. It occurs over existing pavement, so nothing changes. Rooftop is substituted for pavement. You can see that there is off to the right side of the plan, there's the Crane River. It's a tidal river, it's a perennial river, so the entire site is in riverfront area. The entire lot is also mapped as being in land subject to coastal storm flowage. And the coastal bank is comprised of stacked granite block, massive granite blocks. So it's a granite block coastal bank. These are the same resource areas that you looked at and confirmed in 2019, and nothing has changed. We are almost 100 feet away from the granite block coastal bank. We don't need any waivers. We're certainly well out of the 50-foot zone. As I said, this is a small area. Pavement is going to be saw cut, stripped off, and then taken away off site. There'll be a small, you can see in the red outline, a small foundation needed, and then the rest of it's just a carpentry type project. The restaurant's going to remain open while this is occurring, so obviously everything will be cleaned up at the end of each workday. That erosion control that we show there, it's probably more of a feel-good type of measure than a functional one. There's not going to be very much exposed soil here after the foundation walls are installed, but the contractor should deploy that each day, and it kind of just gives them a sort of a limit of work indication there. So just good practice. So anyway, that's the project. It's fairly simple. We have a DEP file number 14-1420, and there were no comments issued by the DEP. So hopefully we can get an order of conditions this evening.
Okay, Bill, where on the drawing here are the erosion control?
That the cursor would stop. So don't move the cursor, and just to the right of it, there's a red dashed line, and it says install straw wattle erosion control. Just to the right of the proposed addition, right there.
Right. Okay, and like you said, it's just going to be a little bit of excavation to pour a foundation. Is that?
Yep, that's all. They're going to saw cut the pavement, what they need to install the foundation. It'd be about a 16 by 20 removal of the existing pavement.
And as they excavate, where will the spoils from the excavation be stored? Right inside that erosion control, or?
Most likely, that's just going to go right off site. They may need a little bit for backfill, but generally they're probably going to backfill with crushed stone or some other select material. So I would expect that the excavated material is just probably going to be live loaded and taken off site.
It's going to be taken away?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, it's a pretty isolated spot, so I don't see a big deal here. But why don't we start with Mary? Do you have any questions?
No, I just wanted to say I did a little bit of background. It's 95 feet away from the seawall, minimal ground surface impact, and no increase in impervious surfaces. So, yeah.
Just a quick question. Your roof runoff, Tony, does that just go into the parking lot, or does that go underground?
Right now it goes into the back.
So
as runoff?
Okay.
Everything, I believe everything just flows to the ground onto the parking lot and then sheets off.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mary, you all set?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm all
Mike,
set.
is there any public comment? Questions? No? Okay, someone can make a motion, I think that we're all
I'll make
in
a
agreement on
motion,
this.
we issue an order of conditions for the notice of intent for 30 Water Street, DEP file number 14-1420, applicant Anthony Cerullo, trustee, with the condition that, that everything that's removed be taken off-site as removed.
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you're all set.
All right, thank you.
Good luck. Okay, next up is 49 Adams Street, NOI, DEP file number 14-1421. The applicant is J&L Hazel Properties, and
Good evening, Bob Griffin on behalf of Jared Hazel, and he apologizes for not being here this evening. Something came up at the last minute with his kids, but I've got a brief presentation to make. If we could bring up the site plan. Mr. Hazel owns a property at 49 Adams Street. This is over by the Sylvania property. It's about it's about 3/4 of an acre in size. And you can see on this graphic, there's an existing two-family house to the left of the plan, which is right close to the street. Just behind the two-family building is a garage, and then there's a large lawn area behind. If we were to pan a little bit further to the right, you'd see the Crane Brook at the right side of the plan. And these resource area limits were defined by Bill Manuel, our previous speaker, back in 2019. And he set flags along the edge of the river and in this BVW area that's in a wooded area behind the lawn. There's also, you can see a sewer easement that runs through the property, so the sewer runs from the top of the page down towards the bottom of the page. It's a pretty good sized pipe. I think it's a 24-inch sewer line. So our areas of interest here are, there's a 35-foot zone, 35-foot no disturb zone line right there. The 50-foot is right there. We also have a FEMA flood zone on the property. Line here. And here's our 100-foot buffer zone. That's 100 feet from the edge of the BVW. And then this line, 200 feet from the edge of the river. So the BVW is kind of wide here, so that's why there's such a difference between the 100-foot riverfront and the 100-foot buffer zone line. But that's sort of what's going on there. But it's all lawn in the backyard right now. Now, this is a little bit of an unusual situation in that Mr. Hazel pursued a number of town approvals back in 2021 and 2022. He went to the zoning board for some zoning relief. He then went to the planning board for a special permit to convert the two-family property to a multifamily property. And both the zoning board and the planning board approved the project. He also got his stormwater approval at that point in time. And then, you know, the pandemic being what the pandemic was, the project got kind of iced. And earlier this year, Mr. Hazel went down and with his architectural plans to the building department, filed for a building permit, and got it. So he thought he was in pretty good shape. He started construction. And then, you know, somebody realized, hey, we forgot about the conservation requirements. So, you know, people change in town hall and people forget things. So I think it was, you know, clearly inadvertent. But at this point in time, the foundation hole has been dug. There's a big pile of sand around the foundation hole, and he's got erosion controls in place and everything stopped. It was sort of helpful in a way in that it was able to confirm that the soil conditions at the site were, we had done a couple of test pits ahead of time, showed very excellent sands and gravels, and that's what he found when he dug the basement hole. So we do have the benefit at this site of having very good soils. They were easy to excavate, no ledge, no issues like that. And again, you know, everything's been encircled with erosion controls, and we're just sort of waiting to get through the conservation process to resume construction and finish this project. So with that, let's move to the next slide, please, or the next drawing. Oh, yeah. So The proposal is to remove that small garage that's behind the existing two-family house.
Point to that.
What's sorry?
Point to the garage, please.
So the garage was here on the previous plan, and so this is the existing two-family, this is the proposed two-family. So the proposal is to, make this, again, a multifamily property with 4 units. The driveway is going to get sort of revised up by the building and then extended in length down here. So
What makes it a multifamily now? What?
more than 3 unit, well, more
Yeah,
than.
but is that one building the multi and the other's coming down, or?
No, they're both going to stay. So this two-family remains, and this two-family is new.
All right.
We have a total of 4 units at the end of this.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Bob. Adams Street runs from Pine Street over to...
By the Sylvania.
To the lights by Sylvania, whatever that's...
Yeah,
is
in
that
fact,
right?
the parking lot, one of the parking lots for Sylvania is right sort of across the
Okay, now
street.
where is the river there? I thought the river...
River's way over here.
Over by, is that Ash Street there?
There's an apartment building on the other side, I think Mill Pond Apartments.
That's the Crane River. There's a house...
The cemetery's right behind here.
There's a house on Adams Street that we approved for some sort of addition. The river was right next door to it.
Oh.
And that intersected at 90 degrees with Adams Street. It's probably not the Crane River, but there was some flowing body of water.
There's a body of water, and there used
Because
to be a
there was
little pump house there at one time.
The house was added onto, and on the other side of the
Yeah.
street,
Yeah.
they built 2 condexes, duplexes, what do you want to call it? So there's some sort of stream there. So that's why I'm kind of grasping it just
Crane
exactly
Brook
where we
here.
are. I'm not so sure it's the Crane Brook.
Cemetery here. Some more two-family and single-family houses up Adams Street.
Yeah, what are you getting at, Peter?
But I'm lost as to where he's at.
Well, we could go out and
Because
look at it.
that stream,
Yeah.
my thinking is that stream is within 200 feet of this project, which makes it riverfront.
Well, this does have riverfront, and that's my point.
Crane
So,
River.
Crane Brook, 200-foot riverfront line is here.
But he's
Okay,
saying
let's
there's
continue
another
on.
200 foot.
I can look at
Oh,
Google
well,
Earth.
no, this is the only one within 200 feet, but in any event. What I wanted to point out here is, here's our 100-foot buffer zone line. Here's our 200-foot riverfront zone line. So you can see that all of the work is outside the 100-foot buffer zone line, with the exception of a sewer connection for the building right here. So there's no work in the 35, there's no work in the 50, there's barely any work in the 100. We've got a couple of dry wells close to the 100, and here's our, end of our building is in the riverfront zone here. So if we were to look at the riverfront criteria, we're allowed to disturb 5,000 square feet of land in a parcel created before 1997. This is a 1923 subdivision plan, so way before 1997. And the total disturbance in the riverfront area is around 1,500 square feet, so we're well under the 5,000 square foot threshold. Now, of that 1,500 square feet of disturbance, about 1,000 of it is associated with the building, about 200 square feet is associated with the driveway. There's a patio out back, 12 feet by 12 feet, around 240 square feet, and with a little bit of a walkway there. So what we're doing is we're really converting this lawn area into the building area. Now, we also are meeting stormwater management standards completely on this project. You can see we have a driveway that slopes down from Adams Street towards the river, and we're going to install an infiltration trench along the entire length of the driveway. And I mentioned before, we have really good soils at this site, gravelly, sandy, dry soils, no groundwater table issues. And so this is going to receive essentially all of the runoff from that driveway from everything up to a 10-year storm, and then after the 10-year storm into a heavier storm, you get a little bit of runoff heading down towards the Crane River. But this is an improvement over existing conditions because there's no infiltration system on the existing driveway at all. We also are going to take roof runoff from the building and put it into these 2 dry wells here and here. So as a result of these stormwater improvements, we're actually going to have less volume of water after construction. We're going to have less rate of runoff after construction. So we're meeting all the stormwater management standards, and we're reducing flows towards the river besides.
Just for clarification, if you're
Yep.
coming from downtown and you're coming up Sylvan Street and you come to the lights and you can either go right or left. If you go right, there is a river there.
But you turn right, there's a cemetery right there, right?
Yeah.
And this is the first house after the cemetery on the right.
Past the river,
I'm going to get a map
There's
up.
no river.
there's water there.
There is a stream there because it drains down from the pond at the Rebecca Nurse.
Here's Sylvan Street. Oh, okay.
I'll stop there. Yep.
Here's Sylvan Street. You turn right on Adams Street. There's the cemeteries. That's the house. That's the garage that gets torn down.
Okay. Now, if you go farther off to the left,
Up here.
right,
Oh.
there should be, there's some pond at the Rebecca Nurse. And
Okay.
there's a stream that goes out, flows out from there, and it must flow out to the Crane Brook.
Yeah. That's going this
But you
way.
say you are within 200 feet. You're within the 200-foot zone
Of this.
of the Crane Brooks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
So it doesn't really matter about the
We're right here.
Brook.
That's that's pretty far away.
But I know we've had two projects on this street.
Okay.
And both of them had to do with that stream.
So 56 Adams, it was right through the backyard.
Stream.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, the Crane Brook, I believe.
That's Crane Brook there?
Yeah, I believe, so.
That's Crane Brook.
does that
So
make
you know
sense?
where we mean, it goes right through someone's yard.
Yeah, we're looking on the GIS right
Yeah.
now. So it looks like it's a hydrologic connection just outside of 56, but not part of 49, or near 49.
Okay.
So that would be on the opposite side of Adams Street anyways. Right, so we're pretty far away. All right.
What size lot is this?
This is about 31,000 square foot lot, so about 3/4 of an acre. And again, we're pretty far from the wetland areas. The other thing I wanted to point out is that one of the things that came up in the planning board and zoning board process was the landscaping, and there's really a fairly extensive landscaping plan proposed here. I don't know if it's possible to get to the third slide, but Laura Rutledge, the landscape architect, has prepared a pretty comprehensive plan. All this area, all this area, all this area. I'm going to go to my cheat sheet here one second. So she's got 9 trees being planted. She's got something about 87 shrubs over the site and a whole bunch of perennials and some ground cover and things like that. So I think it's going to bring a lot of diversity to the environment at this lot. It's going to bring a lot of seasonal color, habitat for birds and the like. So I think it's a pretty significant improvement. Naturally, comprehensive erosion controls all around the construction area. And again, the site's already been dug. It's in shape, ready to go. We meet, I think, all the criteria for doing work in the riverfront. We protect other resources. There's no impact on rare species. We've got the house as far or as close to Adams Street as possible. In fact, we had to get relief from the zoning board to get it as close as we got it. No significant adverse impacts here. We've got pretty much 100 feet of undisturbed vegetation between our backyard and the Crane Brook, less than 5,000 square feet of disturbance. We're meeting stormwater per the DEP policy.
So the 1-2 unit is already built?
This house is probably 1920 construction, and this is proposed.
Yeah, so is that being rebuilt, the other one, or?
I mean, I think there's some remodeling going on, but no significant
They're not
structural
being torn
alterations.
down or anything?
No, nothing like that, no.
Now, Bob, is this shaded area, is that all asphalt? Is that all impervious?
Right, so we're revising, there's a driveway now, but we're gonna revise it and make it a little bit more, better organized, and we're gonna obviously improve the landscaping all along the driveway as well. We're adding the stormwater treatment along the edge of the driveway. So, we're gonna, neaten things up
So
significantly.
you're adding impervious, but it's an allowable amount, is what you're saying?
Not just that, it's just that we're, even though we're increasing the amount of impervious surfaces, we're going to have less runoff, less volume, better treated. It's really a significant improvement. I think it's a well thought out plan.
How much landscaping are you giving us?
Say it again, please.
How much landscaping are you giving us?
This looks like, we've got a 30,000 square foot lot, and I mean, there's landscaping all around both buildings. It's got to be, 5,000 square feet of landscaping at least.
As long as you're controlling that water coming off of the pavement.
Again, excellent soils, and we're putting a lot of water into the ground through those dry wells and that infiltration trench.
And you mentioned there's good drainage there, is that what you were
Very
pointing
good,
out?
very good sandy soils, no groundwater table interfering with the project at all. So that's all I had to say.
Where do the cars park? No garage parking, right?
There's a garage space here and a garage space here. In addition, there's 8 spaces over
And they're under the building?
There's a garage door inside the building.
Oh, just for those two, but the others are outdoors.
Right.
Any other questions, Mike?
No.
Mary, do you have any questions?
Let me see. I just wanted to quickly ask, why was there a delay in filing the notice of intent with the Conservation Commission?
So, again, I think the project got delayed for a while because of the pandemic, and I think the owner didn't realize that he had to go to the Conservation Commission. I think some of the people in Town Hall issued a building permit before realizing that it had to go to Conservation. So I think there was just, a mistake on a few people's part. Nobody talked to me, so it was inadvertent.
And then, what work has been done so far? It looks like they just did the excavation, right?
That's exactly it. They dug the excavation, then they've stopped work, and other than maintaining erosion controls, nothing is going on right now.
And then, what's the project timeline?
It'll probably take up 8 or 9 months to finish this project completely.
And are you requesting any waivers?
No waivers required.
Are you proposing any erosion controls?
Yes, in fact, they're already installed, but we have erosion controls around the entire, here's the line, there.
And what do they consist of?
It was a straw sock, if I remember
Sock.
correctly, when I was out there, yeah.
The staff been out to look?
Yeah, the building department, and I think Brian Cassidy in our office also went out there to make sure that it was stopped and secured.
This is all pretty recent development when someone discovered it?
He started to do work on the foundation a month ago.
May, yeah.
I mean, it was and once it got alerted to our office, that's when we reached out to the applicant and said, you still need to do this. So once they found their mistake, like he said, it was we issued the building department issued a building permit because we thought everything was good.
Sure.
Then when it came across our desk for another reason, we realized that actually they didn't go through
Flagging
Concom.
mistake. Yeah.
So as soon as we mentioned that to the applicant, hired who he needed to hire, and he got us here.
Right.
Okay.
What about stockpiling?
The dirt is currently stockpiled on site in sort of like a windrow around the foundation hole.
When it's covered or?
No, it's open.
It's open?
Yeah, but it's
With
really
all
not.
this rain, yeah?
Well, again, very sandy soils, highly permeable, so it's not really, it's not causing a big problem at the moment, but we'd like to move the project forward.
And can I ask a quick question?
Go ahead.
When the foundation was dug, were any trees removed?
No, there's 2 trees sort of in the backyard. There's one here, and there's one here, and the plan requires that we save both of those. I don't think there was any other trees at all. No trees.
Okay, I think you'd said that you did get the Board of Appeals to give you a variance?
Right, so when you go from a two-family to a multifamily use, the setbacks change. So, and the existing building would not conform to the multifamily
Becomes
setbacks.
non-conforming.
The building was already non-conforming, and then the change of use from two-family to multifamily occasioned some additional non-conformities, and that all came into the zoning board's decision to grant the relief necessary for this project to
Became
move
more
forward.
non-conforming.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
While proving a hardship. Okay, I asked for public comment, right?
No one online.
Okay. All right, so let's proceed on this. Actually, before we do that, we have to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
So you do
Make
that
a
for us,
motion
Mike?
that we close the public hearing
I second, oh, go ahead.
for 49 Adams Street, DEP, file number 14-1421, applicant J&L Hazel Properties LLC.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, now we're going to vote on issuing an order of conditions. And when someone makes the motion, do we have any conditions we wanted to add to that?
Well, the trees that were noted. I make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 49 Adams Street. Notice of intent, DEP file number 14-1421, applicant J&L Hazel Properties LLC, with conditions of best practices in stockpiling, that they enlist erosion control, that they install the trees and landscaping as shown on their plan with the approval, submitting for approval with staff that it's being done correctly, and that they preserve the existing trees that are shown on their plan. I think there were 2 in number, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, that's the motion.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Generally, you consult with staff when you do the tree plantings and such.
Yeah, so I think we should probably wait till we get the superstructure up, and we're, you know, if he decides to landscape this fall, we'll do it in the fall, otherwise it'll be in the spring.
Yeah, because if you did it now, we get wrecked. All right.
Okay, that's through the most of it. Now we just have to vote on our minutes from May 9th, and then second vote from the minutes from May 23rd. So have we all reviewed the minutes from May 9th?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from May 9th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You're on a roll, Mary. Go
Yep,
ahead.
and I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from our May 23rd, 2024 business meeting.
I'll second.
Oh, I should ask if you're going to second, right?
Sometimes he asks if we don't say anything.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now, before we adjourn, is there any other new business we need to consider?
No, just wanted to let you know, obviously, we have a newer face here in the meetings. Emily Beatrice is going to be taking over for these meetings in probably a few months. I think the idea is that we're going to come together for at least, through the summer is what we were thinking.
Oh, good. We know Emily.
And then Emily would take over from there. The other thing is that we are currently accepting applications for Emily's old position, the regulatory board assistant. So we're going to be getting some applicants and hopefully filling that position within the next 2 months.
Oh, good.
Good, it's progress.
Yes.
And just one other thing for Aaron Henry's meeting that he had to cancel.
Yes.
Has that been rescheduled?
It has not been rescheduled, and we are trying to figure that out because, it was a missed opportunity on our part, and we do need feedback. So it will be rescheduled.
Because it just put unnecessary burden on us, I thought. That we canceled the meeting, but we could have done some of this business.
Yeah, exactly. And then you didn't even have the, no,
Right.
understood.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, I have nothing else. So if someone can make a motion, we can adjourn.
I'm making a motion for us to adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
What was the
thank
thing?
you all.
What was the thing with Aaron?